as part of the success of the business is actually probably a very, very big happy accident. When we were first looking to set a business up, we just wanted to open a bar, somewhere where we could go and drink ourselves. And I think having probably spent many years in conflict with chefs, we were a bit sick and tired of working with them, so we didn't want to actually open anywhere that did any food. And it just so happens that the site that we viewed, which ultimately became our first operation, Lounge on North Street, has been shelled by the landlord and included kitchen extract. And we had this sort of rather reverse eureka moment of, I suppose we'll have to do food then. And we set about developing a blackboard menu, and thought we'll have an all-day breakfast and a burger and sort of very easy, accessible food dishes on there. And obviously, it's a pretty integral part of what we do as a business. It's 50% of our revenue. This year alone, we'll turn over £20 million within food sales. And ultimately, that happy accident has seen us generate over 75 million in food sales since we founded the business in 2002. And ultimately has been at the core of the business, creating 1,200 jobs. We launched the Lounge model in 2002. We had, by that stage, a fairly clear idea that we wanted something that would operate all day. And I think a lot of people have obviously looked at us as being the all-day model. Lots of people scratch their heads about how they can get all-day dining, particularly breakfast trade. I think what we certainly have found is that you have to do it from day one. So we've stuck very true to our roots in terms of having a menu that's available from 9 in the morning to 10 at night, 7 days a week. It's accessible. It's quite broad, which in itself is a pretty big challenge. But ultimately, we feel that people can use us for whatever they want at whatever time of day. We're not saying to people you can't do that now because we've stopped serving breakfast at 11 o'clock. And I think that level of informality and that democratic approach means that people very much see us as being effectively appealing to everybody and anybody that lives within an area where a lounge is located. It's a very broad church of people that we appeal to. And I think fundamentally, from our point of view, it's very important because we get a revenue stream throughout the day. People spend not a lot of money with us, but they do spend not a lot of money often, and that's very important to the business's success. And fundamentally, I think we are perhaps fulfilling a convergence of what people, modern day people, want out of a food and drink offer, which is somewhere where there is that informality and accessibility. That was probably, I suppose, in the early noughties against the backdrop of offers that were becoming a lot more specific and only really focusing on one area of food and drink. So call it genius, call it happy accident, but the brand is very much built on an all-day model, and clearly it served us incredibly well. Within Lounges, we have two brands, which some people might find slightly curious. We have the Lounge Cafe Bar model, which we have very much deliberately ring-fenced as being a neighbourhood cafe bar concept. And we have the Cosy Club brand, which is much smaller in terms of sites, which we founded in 2010, which was deliberately launched to fit market town and more central city centre locations. It's much more of a clearly defined restaurant and bar offer with much more structure around service. And fundamentally, some people might find it curious that we did that, but our belief was that we didn't want to dilute what we did with the Lounge model by doing a variation on a theme on that particular concept. So we decided that we would call it a different name, and they are very clearly defined in terms of their differences. And fundamentally for us as a business, they are an expression of what we do, but it's two different brands. And sitting behind that, we feel, is the magic that is Lounge as a business. And the great thing about it is we have some competitive tension within the business between the two brands, and actually there's a process of one brand learns off the other and vice versa. So we feel we can drive improvement through the business by, in effect, having two different brands as opposed to just being solely focused on one. And while some people might view that as a distraction, we certainly do not, and see that as a really major benefit and an asset we have in the business. Partnerships, I think, are very important in most businesses, but probably more so in hospitality. We were quite fortunate in some respects, and I suppose quite lucky that first and foremost, the three of us that founded the business were friends. So Jake and I have known each other for 27 years, and we met Dave through hospitality. When we decided to go into business and set lounges up, there was very much a sort of Three Musketeers mentality. We were all for one. And as the business grew ultimately in size, you begin to appreciate that there needs to be a bit more definition around who does what within the business. And I suppose because we had a very good personality fit and we had different strengths within the business, we found ourselves fairly naturally deferring to defined roles within the organisation. I think for me, a lot of people talk about what makes a good entrepreneur, and whilst I feel entrepreneurial, I think there are other entrepreneurs that have a much more erratic way of operating. They will have an idea, launch it, and then get very impatient and go off and do another idea, and that's the way that they like to operate. I think, myself personally and us as an organisation, we're clearly thinking very hard about our business all the time, about ways we can evolve and innovate and keep that whole process just going all the time within the business and getting everybody to think about that. But we are, I think, fundamentally people that enjoy finishing what we've started, seeing a project through. We've got ultimately a goal which we set ourselves, and once we reach that goal, we'll set ourselves a new goal. What keeps us motivated and keeps us focused is the fact that we love and enjoy what we're doing, and it gets us out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning every day with a will to get to work and make things happen. And our enjoyment and our success in the business is probably not measured in terms of what we would say from a monetary perspective we've achieved, but is actually from the fact that we're very proud and very addicted to what we do. And that certainly ensures that as entrepreneurs, we're perhaps a bit boring, but we are very focused and ultimately probably very successful. A lot of people obviously ask me a lot of the time, what's happening with the business in terms of where are you taking it? How long do you personally want to be involved? How big could it get? They're clearly big questions. We're fortunate enough to have a business that has got what seems to certainly be a potential for mammoth scale. When we talk about the possibility of there being hundreds of lounge sites in the UK, it isn't a pipe dream. It is a genuine reality. The business currently has got 44 sites. We intend to be at 90 sites by the end of 2016. That is, in our view, a very achievable goal. And I dare say, as that date approaches, we'll set ourselves new targets. And if I'm honest, we're always revising the targets that we set ourselves upwards, because we're that kind of management team. But the reality of it, from a personal perspective, is I love what I do. I've loved the changes and the adaptations that we've had to make in terms of dealing with scale. But then also, I've got a team of really immensely talented people that have come up through the business or have joined the business that are clearly chomping at the bit to take the mantle on as well. So I don't exactly know what the future looks like, if I'm honest, but I think the great thing is that we're in extremely good health, and we've got a very talented people and working for us, and if at some stage I feel like letting someone else drive the bus, then so be it. But as things stand now, we're just very in the zone with growing the business and loving what we're doing.